Breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You've heard that phrase your entire life. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It sounds like an unbreakable rule of good health, right? Wrong. That idea didn't come from some revolutionary medical study. It actually came from advertising. In the late 1800s, a man named John Harvey Kellogg, the cereal pioneer, began heavily promoting breakfast. Then, in the early 1900s, food companies took the message even further, branding cereal as a daily necessity. The campaign worked so well that today, skipping breakfast feels almost illegal. But here's the reality. Science doesn't really support that claim. Eating breakfast isn't a magic formula for weight loss, sharper focus, or a longer lifespan. Research shows what truly matters is your overall diet and how you live, not whether you ate eggs at 8 a.m. Some people genuinely feel better eating as soon as they wake up. Others feel slow and uncomfortable and prefer to wait. Intermittent fasting literally involves skipping breakfast altogether, and millions of people around the world do just fine on it. Your body runs on energy stored from food you've eaten over time, not the time on the clock. If you're hungry in the morning, eat. If you're not, skipping it is perfectly fine. Camels. It's a common belief that camels store water in their humps. Everyone imagines camels as walking canteens, holding gallons of water inside those massive humps on their backs. It sounds reasonable, right? A desert animal with a huge hump. It must be a water tank. But here's the truth. Those humps aren't filled with water at all. They're made of fat. Camels can store up to 80 pounds of fat in a hump, and that fat acts as their energy supply. Think of it as a built-in emergency food stash. When food is hard to find, they burn that stored fat to survive. So if the hump doesn't hold water, where did the myth come from? Camels are simply incredible at handling hydration. When they do find water, they can drink massive amounts, up to 40 gallons in a single session, and then survive for weeks without drinking again. Their bodies are designed for extreme conservation. Their red blood cells are oval-shaped, allowing blood to keep flowing even during dehydration. They can also let their body temperature rise and fall, which reduces sweating and saves water. They're perfectly engineered for life in the desert. But water stored in the hump? That part is pure Hollywood fiction. Only 5 senses. Humans only have 5 senses. You've probably heard that since kindergarten. We're taught that humans have 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Sounds reasonable, right? But it's not accurate. The idea of 5 senses dates all the way back to Aristotle, and we've been repeating it ever since. In reality, scientists have identified at least 9 senses, and some researchers argue there are more than 20. Beyond the classic 5, there's balance, called the vestibular sense, which keeps you upright instead of falling over every time you stand. Then there's proprioception, your body's ability to know where your arms and legs are without looking. Ever touch your nose with your eyes closed? That's proprioception. You also have thermoreception, which lets you sense heat and cold, nociception, which detects pain, and interoception, which tells you when you're hungry or when you need to breathe. If humans really only had 5 senses, walking in a straight line, or even staying alive, would be incredibly difficult. So next time someone says we only have 5 senses, remind them they're missing at least 4, and that's being generous. Pee on jellyfish. You should pee on jellyfish stings. Maybe you've done it yourself, or maybe you've seen it in movies. Someone gets stung by a jellyfish, and a friend jumps in with this so-called survival trick, peeing on the sting. Hollywood makes it look like a miracle cure. In reality, it can actually make things worse. Here's why. Jellyfish stings come from tiny venom-filled cells called nematocysts. When they activate, they inject venom into your skin, and some of those stingers don't fire right away. They stay stuck to the skin, fully loaded and ready. The last thing you want is to trigger them again. And here's the problem with urine. Depending on its temperature and salt level, it can cause those remaining cells to release even more venom. So congratulations! You've just been peed on, and now the pain is worse. The real solution is to rinse the area with seawater, not fresh water, because fresh water can also activate the stingers. After that, Soak the sting in hot water. Heat helps break down the toxins and reduces the pain. And for certain jellyfish species, vinegar can help too. So next time you're at the beach and someone gets stung, skip the dramatic pee rescue. Or if someone already did it, you can let them know it didn't help at all. Chameleons. Chameleons don't actually change color to camouflage. Most people think chameleons can turn invisible on command, blending into any background like reptile magicians. Green jungle? They turn green. Sandy desert? Suddenly tan. It sounds impressive, but it's mostly a myth. Chameleons don't change color to disappear into their surroundings. They change color to communicate and control body temperature. Those dramatic shifts are basically visual signals. Feeling aggressive? Brighter colors appear. Feeling calm? Colors become more muted. Too hot and trying to cool down? They lighten up to reflect heat. Cold? They darken to absorb warmth. So how do they do it? Their skin contains special cells called chromatophores, along with tiny nanocrystals that reflect light differently depending on how they expand or contract. That's what creates everything from subtle color changes to full-on rainbow displays. But blending in like a perfect camouflage ninja? That part is pure Hollywood fiction. They might occasionally match nearby colors by coincidence, but they're not repainting themselves to vanish into the background. Night vision. Carrots give you night vision. You've heard this one forever. Eat your carrots, and you'll be able to see in the dark. Sounds amazing, right? Unfortunately, it's mostly a myth, with a bit of history behind it. Carrots do contain beta-carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A, and vitamin A is essential for healthy eyesight. But does that mean carrots give you night vision powers? Not even close. If someone is severely deficient in vitamin A, eating carrots can help restore normal vision, but they won't transform you into a nighttime hunter. So where did this idea come from? You can thank World War II propaganda. The British Royal Air Force had radar technology that allowed pilots to detect enemy planes at night. They didn't want Germany to figure that out. So instead, they claimed their pilots had incredible night vision because they ate large amounts of carrots. The story spread fast, and people have believed it ever since. Carrots are definitely good for you. But if you're hoping to ditch your headlights after eating a few carrots, forget it. The only thing carrots really give you at night is a healthy snack. Blue blood. Blood is blue inside your veins. You've probably heard someone say, "Your blood is blue until it touches air." It sounds believable, especially if you've ever looked at your veins. They look blue, right? But here's the truth. Human blood is never blue. Not in your veins, not in your heart, not anywhere in your body. It's always red, just in different shades depending on oxygen levels. Bright red when it's rich in oxygen, and a darker red when oxygen is lower. So why do veins look blue through the skin? That's an optical illusion. It happens because of how light travels through your skin and reflects back to your eyes. Blue light has a shorter wavelength, so it scatters more easily than red light, making veins appear bluish beneath the surface. This myth became so widespread that some people believe blood only turns red when it comes into contact with oxygen. That's not true. If you cut yourself, there's no color change, because the blood was already red. The confusion may also come from certain animals, like horseshoe crabs, which actually do have blue blood. But humans? We've always had red blood. Blue blood royalty is just a metaphor, nothing more. Sleepwalker. Sleepwalkers shouldn't be woken up. If you've ever seen someone sleepwalking, you've probably heard, "Don't wake them. It's dangerous." The story says that waking them could cause a heart attack, send them into shock, or permanently damage their mind. It sounds terrifying, but it's a complete myth. Waking a sleepwalker won't kill them. It may confuse or startle them for a moment, but that's usually all that happens. Sleepwalking occurs during deep sleep, so when you wake someone, their brain is basically restarting. They'll likely feel groggy and disoriented with no idea what just happened, but they'll be perfectly fine. So where did this belief come from? Mostly old superstitions and a long-standing fear of interfering with sleep, which has always seemed mysterious and sacred. The real danger isn't waking a sleepwalker. It's letting them keep wandering. Sleepwalkers can end up doing risky things, walking outside, climbing stairs, and in rare cases, even driving. That's where serious injuries can happen. So the best option is to gently guide them back to bed if possible. And if that's not an option, waking them is perfectly safe. Lightning strikes. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. You've probably heard that phrase used to describe rare events. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. It sounds dramatic, like nature follows strict rules. But here's the reality. Lightning doesn't care about sayings. It can strike the same spot again and again. In fact, tall structures like skyscrapers, radio towers, and even trees are lightning magnets. The Empire State Building is hit roughly 20 to 25 times every year. Why? Because lightning follows the path of least resistance. A tall metal structure reaching into the sky is basically an open invitation. So the next time someone uses that phrase, remember, lightning isn't selective. If you're in the wrong place during a storm, it could strike twice just to prove the point. Sharks. Sharks can smell a drop of blood from miles away. You've seen this scene in every shark movie. One tiny drop of blood hits the water, and somewhere far away, a great white goes into a frenzy, locking on like it has built-in GPS. It sounds terrifying, right? But in reality, that's Hollywood drama, not science. Sharks do have an incredible sense of smell, one of the best in the animal kingdom. But the whole miles away idea is hugely exaggerated. In truth, sharks can detect blood at concentrations of about 1 part per million. That's extremely sensitive, but it's more like a single drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, not across the entire ocean. And even then, ocean currents, tides, and moving water quickly disperse scents. So no, if you cut your finger in Hawaii, a shark in California isn't coming for you. They're impressive predators, but not horror movie monsters. Still, it's probably not a great idea to test this by bleeding in the water, because if a shark is nearby, it's definitely going to notice. 8 spiders per year. Every year you swallow spiders while you sleep. You've probably heard this creepy fact before. They say that while you're asleep, 8 spiders crawl into your mouth every year. Picture it. You're mid-dream, and a spider decides to wander into your open mouth or up your nose. It slips past your lips, sets up camp, and disappears forever. Terrifying, right? Here's the good news, it's complete nonsense. Spiders want nothing to do with your mouth. Think about it. Warm, wet, vibrating, and full of teeth. That's basically their worst nightmare. The vibrations from your breathing, your snoring, even your heartbeat are more than enough to scare them away. Spiders hunt in places that are quiet and still, not on top of a snoring giant who could crush them at any moment. So where did this nightmare come from? The joke is that the average person swallows 8 spiders a year because one guy is throwing off the numbers by eating billions just to mess with everyone else. In reality, the chances of swallowing even 1 spider in your entire life are microscopic, unless you're doing it on purpose. So relax. Nothing is crawling into your mouth at night, unless you're that one guy. Pirates. Walking the plank. Every pirate movie has it. That dramatic moment where the villain raises a sword and growls, "Walk the plank." The crew gathers, drums start beating, and the victim slowly shuffles toward the edge. Then, splash, into shark-infested waters while everyone watches. It's iconic. And it's almost completely fake. Historical records show little to no evidence that real pirates actually use this method. Why? Because pirates weren't putting on theatrical performances. They were running a business. Time was money, and forcing someone to carefully balance on a board was pointless and inefficient. If pirates wanted you gone, they'd throw you overboard, stab you, or hold you for ransom. Quick, simple, and terrifying enough. The idea of walking the plank didn't really appear until the 19th century, mainly in books and stage plays. Then Hollywood took it and ran wild. So the reality is this: you weren't taking a dramatic stroll to your death. You were shoved overboard, or stabbed, then shoved. Less cinematic, but the ending was exactly the same. Body heat. Most of your body heat escapes through your head. You've probably heard this from every parent ever. Wear a hat, or you'll freeze. The idea is that most of your heat leaks out through your head. It sounds convincing, right? Almost scientific, like your head is a chimney dumping heat into the cold winter air. But that belief comes from bad science. The myth started with a 1950s military study where soldiers in freezing conditions were dressed in winter gear everywhere, except on their heads. Naturally, they lost more heat there because it was the only exposed skin. The real truth is simple. Heat escapes from any uncovered part of your body in proportion to how much skin is exposed. Your head only makes up about 10% of your body's surface. So unless you're a floating giant head, it's not where most of your heat is escaping. If you went outside naked wearing only a hat, you'd still freeze in minutes. Sure, a hat helps in cold weather, but so do pants, gloves, socks, and literally anything else that covers your skin. If you want to stay warm, dress like a human. Owls. Owls have been symbols of wisdom for centuries. Ancient Greece made them the companion of Athena. Storybooks give them glasses, cartoons turn them into professors, and fantasy tales perch them on wizards' shoulders, handing out advice in enchanted forests. For generations, we've treated owls like nature's philosophers. But in reality, owls aren't the brainiacs of the bird world. They're more like the quiet, efficient type. Yes, they're phenomenal hunters, but that's instinct, not intelligence. They're nighttime assassins, not scholars. Compare them to crows or ravens, which can solve puzzles, recognize human faces, and even use tools. Next to them, owls seem almost clueless. Crows can drop nuts at crosswalks so cars crack them open. Owls just sit there, looking mysterious. Their huge eyes and unblinking stare make them appear deep and thoughtful, but that's biology, not wisdom. So the next time you see an owl staring off into the distance, it's not pondering life's big questions. It's thinking about its next meal, mouse or frog. Chickens. We use the phrase running around like a headless chicken, and most people assume the story ends in seconds. The head comes off, there's a bit of flapping, and then it's over. But the truth is far stranger. Sometimes a headless chicken doesn't just twitch. It keeps living. Not for seconds. Not even for minutes. But for hours. And in one famous case from 1945, a chicken named Mike survived for 18 months after losing his head. So how is that even possible? It turns out the brainstem, the part responsible for basic functions like breathing and heartbeat, can remain intact if the cut is high enough. And that's exactly what happened to Mike. His body just kept functioning. Farmers fed him using an eyedropper, delivering food straight into his throat. Before long, he became a national sensation, touring the United States as the famous headless wonder chicken. Think about that for a moment. A chicken with no face, no eyes, no beak, just a body and a heartbeat. Was he aware? Could he feel anything? Or was it all pure instinct keeping him going? Scientists aren't completely sure, and honestly,